Hello friends, welcome to Star Explainer. Tales of Herding Gods Part 378 explains based on novel. So let's start explanation. Qin Mu and the others finished walking through Celestial Street and arrived at another street. This street had long been evacuated, and not even a shadow was in sight. Yun Chuxiu praised, "How impressive, Celestial Venerable. Everywhere that you go, there's no sign of life at all." Qin Mu laughed. "I'm a Celestial Venerable after all, so it's obvious that my appearance would be impressive." The tiny Earth Count emerged from the Dragon Chilean's ear and solemnly inspected the surroundings, which were awe-inspiring. The Dragon Chilean was afraid that he would get in trouble and quickly drooped his ear before stuffing it back in. The tiny Earth Count hammered his ear, but the Dragon Chilean tolerated it all, refusing to let him out. Yun Chuxiu noticed the tiny Earth Count and was visibly shocked. She suddenly and mysteriously laughed. They arrived in front of the Lang Xian Divine Palace, and although its plaza wasn't as vast as the Jade Pools, it was still considered one of the grandest group of buildings in the celestial heavens. The place proved to be dazzling, and there was nothing between each of the palaces except the clouds, so one had to fly to get around. In reality, most of the celestial heavens buildings were like that. Not every place was perfectly connected. For example, the Jade Pool floated in the sky and was surrounded by clouds. Only the tributaries of the Celestial River were connected to the Jade Pool, and the Jade Pavilion, which the Jade Pool was in, wasn't connected to the rest of the celestial heavens. The space between the heavenly market and the rest of the places was also empty, meaning that one had to fly between these places and the heavenly market. The other buildings within the celestial heavens were also often not connected together. This was because of how, when the celestial heavens was being built during the first year of the Dragon Han era, the scale of it wasn't as great as today's celestial heavens. It was only formed out of 36 celestial palaces and 72 throne halls. The celestial palaces, throne halls, and the Jade Capital formed one structural body. These buildings, only when pieced together, formed the celestial heavens, which created the situation where the halls and palaces weren't connected to one another. Later on, the original 36 celestial palaces and 72 throne halls were moved to other places in the universe to guard said places. After constant expansion, such as adding on the merger of the Heaven Han Celestial Heavens, Dragon Heaven Celestial Heavens, and Dragon Han Celestial Heavens, the celestial heavens of today achieved its scale. However, the tradition that each place within the celestial heavens was independent remained too. The Lang Xian Divine Palace already knew of Celestial Venerable Mu's trip here. God Emperor Lang Xian's disciples were quick to report it. The main disciple of the God Emperor, Chang Ziting, was in charge of the palace, and upon hearing of Celestial Venerable Mu's visit, he instantly felt his head hurt. "Celestial Venerable Mu is really approaching?" he asked again and again. "Big brother, he's already outside the palace." Chang Ziting mocked him, saying, "Why is he here? Is he not afraid of death?" The masses looked at one another, and one of them was daring enough to say, "Big brother, who dares to kill him?" A couple of days ago, at the Jade Pool, even Celestial Venerable struck, and he still didn't die. If he dies in our Lang Xian Divine Palace, we'll be in big trouble. Other forces will use this to accuse us of hurting Celestial Venerable Mu, and we'll end up dying with him. Chang Ziting's headache grew to the point where his head was figuratively cracking. He waved his hand and told them, "Of course I know of the consequences. I have heard that he now has no soul, and is merely alive due to his undying God consciousness. He doesn't have long left to live. Although we can't kill him directly, we can make him suffer setbacks and accelerate his death." His eyes flashed as he smiled and said, "If the great Celestial Venerable Mu is defeated by the disciples of Celestial Venerable Lang, not once, but hundreds of times, his confidence and beliefs will suffer a great setback. Won't he die faster then?" The mass's eyes flashed with his. Chang Ziting smiled wickedly, saying, "We are disciples of a celestial venerable, guided by one since we were young, and we cultivated using the best techniques and divine arts." In contrast, Celestial Venerable Mu is merely a country bumpkin from the lower bound that used Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art to go back to the Dragon Han era, ending up with the title of Celestial Venerable. Defeating him is easy. As long as he doesn't die in the Lang Xian Divine Palace, it's none of our business. One of the youths frowned. "Big brother, I heard that Prince Yu and the others challenged him at the Jade Pool with the intent to humiliate him, and they ended up dying. Prince Yu was also pretty high up on the divine talents list, and he could kill people with the power level of a prince. His power level is certainly not low." Chang Ziting smiled. "The two lists are merely gimmicks to fool little kids. Look at the disciples of each of the Celestial Venerables, how many of them are on the list? The Celestial Venerables each hide their own techniques, and stuff heavily with the intent of not letting the other Celestial Venerables know about their techniques. The disciples of Celestial Venerables on the list use techniques that aren't from the Celestial Venerables with the aim of fooling the other Celestial Venerables. If you lot use Master's greatest technique, it'll be easy to defeat him. I want him to vomit blood and die from depression." The masses let out a long sigh of relief as they said, "With this advice from Big Brother, we are relieved. It's just that, what if he doesn't dare to accept the challenge?" Chang Ziting laughed again. "Is he not the rumored overlord body? I have heard that it's unique. Use that and spite him with words. He fights when he smells blood. This man is merely 20 to 30 years old and doesn't have a deep knowledge base. Prepare yourselves. I will go and see Master." The masses exited the place to prepare. In the God Emperor's hall, Chang Ziting bowed and reported the incident, saying, "Master, is it fine to let the disciples handle this? Does Master want to meet him yourself?" The horns rose on God Emperor Lang Xian's head. His face was tall and ancient-looking. He was the first half-god of the world, and his parents were also ancient gods who gifted him immortality, allowing him to survive. It was said that he was so strong after his cultivation that he was powerful beyond measure. He was older than Celestial Venerable Yu and Celestial Venerable Hao then. It was even rumored that he fought in the large battle at the Blood Rust Zone, although that was unconfirmed. Another mystery was which two ancient gods were his parents. His disciples were also mostly half-gods. Amongst the half-gods, Celestial Venerable Hao, God Emperor Lang Xian, and Ancestral God King were the three leaders with the great rallying power. They were the most powerful beings of the half-gods. "Your arrangement is great. Just be careful not to kill him." God Emperor Lang Xian frowned. "This fellow dares to come here. This move makes my head ache. The celestial heavens is already a mess because of him. It was only because of the mutual suspicion and guardedness of the 10 celestial venerables that no fight broke out. This daring fellow. It's already annoying that he created trouble for the other heavenly kings and the 4 deities, now he has come here to provoke me. These are some tumultuous times." He walked around as he muttered, "I won't see him." He was one of the 5 elders who founded the Heaven Alliance, and his place there is higher than even that of Celestial Venerable Ling. Amongst them, Celestial Venerable Yu is disabled, Celestial Venerable Yun and Celestial Venerable Ling died, while Celestial Venerable Qin doesn't dare show himself. He's the only one left and thus, in name, is the most powerful person in the Heaven Alliance with the highest status. If I see him, I have to bow and call him brother. Chang Ziting was secretly alarmed. Too timid to talk, he thought, if I handle this properly, I will have accomplished something great for Master. He will certainly reward me heavily. With a deep gaze, God Emperor Lang Xian slowly said, "This fellow took a lot of advantages. During the first year of the Dragon Han era, when Celestial Emperor invited me to join the Celestial Heavens meeting, he ran to join the Jade Pool meeting with Celestial Venerable Yu. As such, the Heaven Alliance was created, and his position became mine instead. Zitting, I will now roam the world. After humiliating him, invite him to leave. Don't let him die here. An. He solemnly said, provide extra protection for Celestial Venerable Mu, don't let anything too bad happen to him. If he dies in my Lang Xian Divine Palace, it'll be like covering me with a huge pot of shrouded tea that I can never wash away. There are already Celestial Venerables who don't like me in the Celestial Heavens, who wish to remove me. It's just that they lack the opportunity. Now, their chance has arrived. Someone might strike now, and kill Celestial Venerable Mu. Chang Zitting felt a chill go through him as he hastily left. God Emperor Lang Xian floated away, laughing. My position in the Celestial Heavens meeting was still above that of some ancient gods. It's just that the Jade Pool meeting, unexpectedly, disregarded the rankings of the later generations. In contrast, the relatively unremarkable Jade Pool meeting became the big meeting that set the course for the next million years. Luckily, I joined the Heaven Alliance early enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a chance to reap any benefits. Qin Mu was emaciated and lacked both blood and essence. He was coughing all the time as many of the disciples of the Lang Xian Divine Palace tried to provoke him. They tried to do so by inviting him, Overlord Body Celestial Venerable Mu, to teach them. Qin Mu remained silent and didn't respond. His essence and blood floated around, a clear sign of his lack of tranquility within. Qi Jui couldn't be provoked, and he proclaimed, Brothers of Lang Xian Divine Palace, what are you doing? Celestial Venerable Mu is here to visit Celestial Venerable Lang, not fool around with you disciples. If you lot want to fight, fight me. A lady laughed. Qi Jui, we've heard about you. You're a mere disciple of the four deities with barely average abilities. There's no need for you to embarrass yourself. We are here to invite Celestial Venerable Mu to teach us, as the Overlord Body of Eternal Peace. You aren't qualified at all. Qi Jui was enraged. Does one need qualifications to challenge others? The masses laughed so hard that they couldn't speak. Yun Jinli gently smiled. Then am I qualified? I'm the descendant of Celestial Venerable Yun. Can I replace Celestial Venerable Mu to accept your challenges? Chang Zitting walked in from outside and laughed. Your family's grandmothers aren't people to be provoked, so why challenge us personally? Relax, we just want some pointers in our cultivation from Celestial Venerable Mu. I have heard that Celestial Venerable Mu led a reform in the lower bound and became one of its 3 heroes. He is also the unique Overlord Body of Eternal Peace, and if he guides my brothers and sisters, their horizons will be broadened. The masses bowed and greeted, Big Brother. Qin Mu stood up while trembling and said, Since everyone wants to witness the power of the Overlord Body and the greatest techniques of eternal peace, then I shall. He suddenly coughed rapidly, and his body wobbled, and he held out his hand as if wanting to hold on to something. Yun Chuxia went up to him to hold him, whispering, Don't always try to show off. Love your body. I already told you not to come out, yet you insisted upon it. As she finished, she sneakily pinched and twisted the meat under his armpit. Have I been played by Celestial Empress? His heart stirred, and he quickly pushed this young lady away before huffing and saying, I'd rather die than be humiliated. I can still do this. I'm here to see Celestial Venerable Lang, not to be humiliated. As the Overlord Body, I must maintain its dignity. Come at me. He straightened himself and retrieved the core of the primordial tree. Clutching his wooden rod, he shouted with all his pride and arrogance, The Overlord Body of Eternal Peace has never lost and never backed down. Qi Jui sighed and lamented, I'm afraid that many people are going to die again from us going out. First, at the Jade Pool, and now, at Celestial Venerable Lang's Lang Xian Divine Palace. Does Cult Master Qin really want to tear the celestial heavens a new one? Yun Chuxiu's heart jumped when she saw that wooden rod. The core of the primordial tree. That little maiden Mother Earth went all in to please this fellow. Just now, that brat god Emperor Lang Xian sneaked away and isn't here. Celestial Venerable Mu can't unleash all of the core's potential. If I help him, it should be easy for us to tear this place apart. Excitement brimmed in her eyes. Qin Mu lifted the core of the primordial tree and coldly asked, "Who wants some pointers from me?" He had his own calculations within him. After seeking trouble with Celestial Venerable Lang and creating trouble with the other giants of the celestial heavens, I'll finally be able to see Dao Ancestor at the Celestial Heavens Dao sect. Chang Ziting cast a glance at a youth, who stepped forward with a shallow smile. He bowed and said, "Disciple of Celestial Venerable Lang, Xuan Wanzhou. Please guide me, Celestial Venerable." Chang Ziting coughed and reminded him, "Brother Wanzhou, don't hurt Celestial Venerable Mu. We are the hosts and should treat our guests properly." Qin Mu said stiffly, "No need for that. Hurt me all you want." Xuan Wanzhou laughed and said, "I can let you go first, so that I can see the power of the Overlord body." Qin Mu was furious, and vital qi flooded into the core of the primordial tree, which allowed its potential to be fully unleashed as he thought, "Should I kill him with one hit? If I do, others might not dare to challenge me." Suddenly, an unbelievably violent magic power flooded into the core. It was extremely terrifying and deep, far beyond his cultivation. In fact, it was thousands of times more powerful than his cultivation. Qin Mu felt shocked as the core in his hands morphed into a giant pillar that pierced the skies. It swept towards Xuan Wanzhou and pulverized him. Not only was he pulverized, but the other disciples of God Emperor Lang Xian couldn't escape their ill fates, and they too were pulverized by the primordial tree's core. Chang Ziting saw that things weren't going so well and lifted his hands to block it. However, he was still crushed by its terrifying force to the point that he vomited blood and flew away. The unbelievably large pillar in Qin Mu's hands swept through Lang Xian Divine Palace amidst his horror. The space beneath it shattered and pulverized the palaces. The palaces and halls of the Lang Xian Divine Palace were swept by the terrifying force, and fell out of the celestial heavens and into the vast, starry sky. This rod of Qin Mu's destroyed most of the Lang Xian Divine Palace. Out of shock and anger, he turned to look at Yun Chuxiu and said in warning, "Little maiden, I have tolerated you for long enough." Yun Chuxiu also got angry and rose up. "You don't know what's good for you. Do you think that I haven't been tolerating you?" Qin Mu laughed and attacked Yun Chuxiu. "Why attack the Celestial Venerable's disciples? If you want to fight, fight the Celestial Venerable himself." Qi Jiui and Yun Jinli gawked at the sight. The former hastily kicked the dragon Qilin and demanded an explanation. "Second brother, what's going on? Explain." The dragon Qilin raised his head, and saw Qin Mu and Yun Chuxiu exchanging blows with each other in the broken palace, their figures leaping through the air as though they were flying, moving extremely fast. Yun Chuxiu could be Celestial Empress or her sister, Mistress Yuan Mu. The dragon Qilin said, "The wooden rod which Cult Master took out just now is called the core of the primordial tree. Its growth rings indicate an age of 50 million years, and it's extremely powerful. It's a precious treasure refined by Mother Earth. However, Cult Master is unable to unleash the power of this precious ancient treasure. Despite that, its power was unleashed just now. Therefore, Cult Master deduced that it was because Yun Chuxiu did something." Celestial Empress, Mistress Yuan Mu. Yun Jianli was astonished when he heard that, then he became a little frightened. Not only had he become sworn siblings with such a terrifying existence, but he had also kept her by his side to spy on her, checking her intentions. Now that he thought about it, he felt a little chill down his spine. However, he began to feel perplexed and asked curiously, "Brother Long Pai, do you know if Yun Chuxiu is Celestial Empress or Mistress Yuan Mu?" Qi Jiui cried out, "How can this beautiful lady be Celestial Empress or Mistress Yuan Mu?" At the same time, he was tremendously curious. During this time, the dragon Qilin was always sleeping or eating, seemingly in a muddle-headed state, and he didn't see much interaction between him and Qin Mu. How was the dragon Qilin able to see through Yun Chuxiu's real identity, while the rest of them knew nothing? Langxian Divine Palace was damaged by the core of the primordial tree so badly that it fell into ruins. Countless palaces and halls had discarded their original formation, and were crashing around haphazardly, in utter disorder. Qin Mu stood on a throne hall that was flying around madly, and Yun Chuxiu was extremely far away from him, also standing on a throne hall. However, these two structures were moving in completely different directions. One was moving up the sky, while the other was falling. Between these two structures were numerous giant pillars and collapsed palaces, which were colliding around aimlessly. Also, there were many divine mountains flying around, whistling as they went past. It was a scene of chaos. Earlier, Yun Chuxiu had unexpectedly released the magic power of a celestial venerable and activated the power of the core of the primordial tree, destroying most of celestial venerable Lang's Langxian Divine Palace. This was the reason behind Qin Mu's anger. He went there with the intention of causing a small conflict, and had no desire to fall out with God Emperor Langxian, Celestial Venerable Lang. As long as he refused to admit he was wrong, there was nothing Celestial Venerable Lang could do to him. The unexpected action of Yun Chuxiu was equivalent to slapping Celestial Venerable Lang's face 10 times while holding his neck. Even though he was Celestial Venerable Mu, one of the 5 elders who founded the Heaven Alliance, Celestial Venerable Lang wouldn't sit idly by after this. He would go from making a move on him in the dark to openly taking action against him. This pile of *T was too big and smelly, he was unable to carry it on his own. Although Qin Mu was extremely audacious, looking as though he didn't care about life and death when he barged into the celestial heavens, fearless even when he ventured deep into a dragon's watery lair, or a tiger's den, each of his moves were actually carefully planned and executed. Every time it looked alarmingly dangerous, there were hidden opportunities or paths of survival. He could rip apart the celestial heavens and have sufficient room to maneuver to protect his life. However, what Yun Chuxiu did instantly pushed him to a side opposing Celestial Venerable Lang, a side where he was in the wrong. Qin Mu raised his hand and struck out a palm towards Yun Chuxiu, who was separated from him by many wildly flying palaces. Countless stars pulsed behind him, dancing in the sky. In the blink of an eye, they formed a resplendent galaxy. The starlight converged as divine energies of magnetism between the stars suddenly surged. The galaxy transformed into a mighty current, gushing forward ferociously along with his palm strike. Immediately, those structures that were flying around madly were attracted by his divine art. His divine energies of magnetism caught those humongous objects, and limitless magnetic force locked Yun Chuxiu's body in place, pulling those humongous objects to smash upon her. The terrifying and powerful magnetic force caused the space around Yun Chuxiu to contort. As she fell, the gigantic palaces, together with the crumbling remnants of stone pillars, broken bricks, and tiles, all crashed into her. The scene was immensely frightening. Qin Mu executed his magnetism divine art, and gained an advantage over the battlefield. The structures of the Langxian Divine Palace were made of divine metal and extremely heavy, which augmented the power of the divine art. Even a real god wouldn't be able to carry the combined weight of these structures. Qi Jiui and the rest were looking up at what was unfolding and saw broken tiles and shattered bricks smashing into Yun Chuxiu like comets. The surrounding space was contorted by magnetic force, increasing the speed of these tiles and bricks, making them not inferior to divine weapons. The dragon Qin said, "Sister Yanga, do you still remember the twin lotuses at the ruins of End? There was a crystal coffin with a lady inside." Cult Master said that she was the sister of Celestial Empress, Mistress Qin Mu. Yanga nodded repeatedly. Of course, she remembered. She also caught a huge worm in the world within the flowers at the ruins of End. It took her a long time before she was done eating the worm. Qin Mu had told her the snake bell wasn't a worm, that it was an ancient god born in the ruins of End, a spirit of great Tao transformed from the stamens of the twin lotuses. However, Yanga still considered it a worm. The snake bell ancient god that she ate still hadn't been digested fully, which was why her body remained chubby. The dragon Qin said, during the incident at the Jade Pool, when the two Celestial Venerables joined forces against Celestial Venerable Yu, it was a desperate and urgent situation. Hence Cult Master took out the crystal coffin and placed it in front of Yun Chuxiu, planning to revive Mistress Qin Mu. Subsequently, another Celestial Venerable arrived, restoring balance to the situation and making both sides evenly matched. Therefore, Cult Master didn't proceed with reviving Mistress Qin Mu. So who was the one that came forth to help? Qi Jiui and Yun Jianli's faces were full of shock as they stared at the dragon Qin blankly. The dragon Qin said, expectedly, it was Yun Chuxiu who helped. In that case, Yun Chuxiu could only be either Mistress Qin Mu or Celestial Empress. Just as he finished his sentence, Yun Chuxiu spread her arms to perform a stroke in the air. A bottomless abyss appeared, swiftly breaking down Qin Mu's seemingly powerful move. Yun Chuxiu stood above the abyss. That was the abyss of the ruins of End created by her divine art, and it looked like it could swallow everything in the world. The swirling galaxy created by Qin Mu's divine art, the contorting divine energies of magnetism, the countless broken bricks and shattered tiles, and the crumbling palaces and great halls, they all plunged into the abyss of the ruins of End. Upon seeing this, Qi Jiui, Yun Jianli, and the rest were stunned. This type of divine art was what the Celestial Empress sisters were well known for. It looked like Yun Chuxiu was one of the two sisters indeed. Qi Jiui cried out, "Second brother, weren't you asleep all along? How did you know so much?" The dragon Qin gave him a look of disdain and said calmly, "All you see is me sleeping, but you are unaware of how studious I am. I was cultivating while I was napping. The most hard-working person in the world is obviously Cult Master, but I am second." Yanga was full of praises, and she took out a spirit pill. The dragon Qin opened his mouth precisely at the moment Yanga reached over with the spirit pill and put it into his mouth. As the dragon Qin was eating the spirit pill, he narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, "I have followed Cult Master for so many years. The people I have met are gods who are either famous, have cultivation beyond measure, or wisdom that is deeply profound. Or they could be strong practitioners of reform, celestial venerables, or sacred gods. Hence, my knowledge and horizon naturally increased, just like how a ship rises with the tide." Yun Chuxiu's abyss of the ruins of End divine art had swallowed Qin Mu's divine art together with those broken structures. The great abyss contorted and trembled, preparing to violently spew a dark, mighty current towards Qin Mu, one transformed from the things it had swallowed. Suddenly, the subsequent galaxy he followed up with transformed into the apparition of Heaven Duke, striking the abyss of the ruins of End with a punch. Yun Chuxiu's expression changed slightly. Qin Mu had originally used the divine energies of magnetism as his divine art. The divine energies of magnetism between the stars were extremely strong, so she didn't expect he would use the stars to transform into Heaven Duke. His earlier divine art looked like one move, but was, in fact, two. The relationship between Mother Earth and Heaven Duke was unclear and complicated. Mother Earth had once snuck into Xuan to steal Heaven Duke's essence, giving birth to several children. The great Tao of these two ancient gods had complementary effects. However, Mother Earth also had unclear relationships with other ancient gods. She once snuck into Yudu to steal the essence of Earth Count, and had a few children. Other gods also had experiences of her stealing their essence. Hence, Heaven Duke wasn't particularly fond of Mother Earth. Qin Mu was successful with his attack. He flew above Yunchuxiu, and his great divine art of martial Tao burst forth, striking down with a punch. Didn't you say that you've already escaped the binding of the ancient gods? Qin Mu fully unleashed his cultivation, and coldly said, "Then why are you still using the divine arts of ancient gods?" The great hall beneath Yunchuxiu's feet broke into pieces. With a swish, the great hall that was smashed by the two fell like a comet, disappearing from everyone's eyes. In the next moment, a long river appeared, and Yunchuxiu was standing above it. The 5 great thunderclouds had transformed into fire bell divine weapons, and the giant bells surrounded Qin Mu, shaking violently. The celestial river swirled and coiled, chaining up Qin Mu. Behind her, a dragon turtle and flying serpent circled, roaring in rage. The 1,000-feathered serpent merged with the celestial river, and as the great river rotated, the serpent's feathers flew out of the waters like knives, slashing towards Qin Mu, who was trapped in the center. Its speed was fast like lightning, its power like rolling thunder. The fire bell divine weapons formed from the 5 great thunderclouds, shook ceaselessly, until the space surrounding Qin Mu crumbled into fragments. The dragon turtle shook its body, and pieces of its shell rose into the air. It formed an extremely thick cube-shaped seal, trapping Qin Mu inside. The cube prevented him from escaping, and his only option was to be refined to death by the great 5 thunderclouds and the celestial river-flying serpent. If Yunchuxiu is indeed Celestial Empress or Mistress Yuanmu, she has indeed escaped the binding of the ancient gods. Qi Jui's expression changed slightly as he turned towards Yun Jianli. "Sickly master, how did you get to know her and become sworn siblings?" Yun Jianli's face was a little pale. He released a bitter laugh and said, "How would I know her abilities were so strong? Even battling her within the same realm, Celestial Venerable Mu is unable to defeat her." Right at this moment, the big disciple of Celestial Venerable Lang, Chang Ziting, flew through the air, pouncing towards Qin Mu and Yunchuxiu from afar. He was seriously wounded by the core of the primordial tree, and the Lang Xian divine palace had been shattered to pieces. His losses were so great that he couldn't help but fall into a violent rage. He had no other thoughts except to kill Celestial Venerable Mu. Yanga spread her wings and transformed into a dragon sparrow. Her primordial spirit flew out, forcefully blocking his attack head-on. Chang Ziting's anger couldn't be satiated. He was about to fight to the death with Yanga when Yun Jinli suddenly shouted, "Senior brother Chang, calm down. It wasn't Celestial Venerable Mu who destroyed your Lang Xian divine palace, it was Celestial Empress." Damn. As Chang Ziting was about to swear, it looked like he was suddenly splashed with a basin of cold water, drenched with penetrating coldness. His voice was trembling as he asked, "Sickly master, what did you say?" Yun Jianli didn't seem to be bothered and said, "Celestial Empress made use of Qin Mu's divine weapon, and destroyed your Lang Xian divine palace." Chang Ziting's expression changed rapidly. He looked towards the young lady and Qin Mu, who were fighting among the chaotic ruins, and murmured, "Celestial Empress." The dragon Qilin glanced at him and said slowly, "I'm not sure if you'll make it even if you escape now. Your master won't forgive you for the destruction of the Lang Xian divine palace, and now that you know it was Celestial Empress who was causing trouble in the dark, she won't spare you." Chang Ziting's limbs went cold, and he immediately flew off with a whoosh. He knew he was in deep trouble. Although God Emperor Lang Xian would spare him, he would still subject him to a living hell. Who knew how many years he would be suppressed before he was released? After all, the destruction of the Lang Xian Divine Palace was a huge loss of face for this celestial venerable, so he would want to punish him. However, when he learned the attack was by Celestial Empress, he understood the gravity of the situation. Celestial Empress wouldn't give him a chance to inform God Emperor Lang Xian of the truth. That was why he made a decisive choice, fleeing the Lang Xian Divine Palace to protect his life. On the other side, the black tortoise seal suddenly exploded. Qin Mu held knives in each of his hands, forcefully hacking open Yun Chuxiu's great divine art. He then slashed towards her, his magic power surging wildly. The one with the surname Qin, don't you know when to back off? Yun Chuxiu's beautiful head was almost chopped off by the slash of his knives. She couldn't help but be furious, lowering her voice and saying, I have already given in to you. How else do you think you can match up to my magic power? This pile of *T is my gift to you, just carry it with you. Part 378 end here. Thank you for watching.